Hey, Carmen. Good to see you.
Hi, Linda. Good to see you too.
How are you?
Good. I'm good.
Good.
Hi, Randy. I'm glad you're doing well.
And we have the screen up because we're going to watch the intro video tonight, so everyone in the Gampa can see y'all tonight,
Great.
but y'all can't see them.
Mhm.
Lisa says hi, Rainey. Everyone else is waving, like really big.
Hello to everybody in the Gampa. Even though I can't see you, I'm saying hello.
We see you.
Oh,
Yeah, no problem,
I
Autumn.
can see.
That's totally fine.
Now I see.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Sam. Yeah, take a minute or so. Chris will find out better than I do. Chris, what's the delay on the YouTube stream? Yeah. Oh. Okay. I thought it was longer than that. Oh, are you pulling up on Zoom or on YouTube? On YouTube. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a delay. Robbie has arrived in the Gampa.
Testing. Okay, great. Actually, next time I'd like to sit on a cushion. Okay, this will be fine for tonight. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Okay, well, it's nice to see everyone out on this cool winter evening. Let's see. I'll turn the floor over to Linda first. You have an organizational announcements.
Sure. Actually, I'll stand up here so y'all can see me. Couple of announcements. Of course, this is Refuge and the Three Jewels, which is Discovering Buddhism Module 7. And it'll run from tonight through February 5th, I believe, whatever that first Monday of February is. But what I wanted to tell you all about is some exciting news coming up. Geshe Sangpo, one of our 2 resident monks, has been in India for quite some time, and he comes back at the end of January, and with him he'll be bringing a couple of other monks from the house that Geshe Sangpo and Geshe Gelik both lived in when they were at the monastery at Serajay. And so during that time, once they arrive at the end of January-ish, we're not sure exactly when that'll be, but towards the end of January, they'll be here all of February, all of March, and during that time, we'll have at least 2 sand mandalas happening here in the Kadampa on the first weekend of February, and it takes 3 days. And this is an extremely rare and incredibly auspicious opportunity to be present while a sand mandala is being, put together. There might be a better word for it than put together, or created maybe. And the first one will be Medicine Buddha, so that'll be a healing mandala. So that'll be a really amazing opportunity for us, as well as any part of the community that wants to come. And then the second weekend of March, we'll have Green Tara Mantra coming and being created as well. And so there's only just a few monks in the world that are qualified to do sand mandalas. And so we really are very incredibly fortunate to have, Geshe Sangpo and one of the other monks who's coming, who are monks that are allowed to create these and have had the training and everything. So it's quite an opportunity. So be sure to keep your eye on the Kadampa Center calendar. I think I mentioned earlier that if you're not already subscribing to our weekly newsletter, you can do so by going to the website and that top right-hand corner. You can donate, you can look at the calendar, which is my favorite, and you can also subscribe to the newsletter there, and you just get it once a week in your inbox. And then there may be additional emails if there's like a big special announcement, but not, you won't be inundated is what I'm saying. So I think that's all the announcements I have. Did you have anything else that I might have forgotten?
Have you told people how to get are you sure this is on? Okay.
Yeah, as far as
how to get the
course
access the course materials.
Yeah, so when you register for Discovering Buddhism, you will immediately receive an enrollment confirmation. And if you enrolled, like a year ago when we first started in 2023, it's the same email, but if you lost that email, just re-enroll, it doesn't matter. And you'll get that email, and that'll explain how to access course materials. There's a password and a username to access it from our website. That username and password is the same for everybody, so don't change it or anything. Just use that same username and that same password to access those course materials. And for each course, there's an information sheet, and then if homework is assigned, homework will be posted, after that class. So like if homework's assigned tonight, then I'll post it when I get home tonight. So, and I think that's it. If you have any questions or problems about accessing course materials, just let me know, and I can kind of walk you through it. All right.
Okay, thank you. So is this 5 weeks or 6 weeks? Asked the teacher. Okay, just 5 weeks, okay. And we won't conflict with the sand mandala being here in the middle of the...
Sand mandala will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be an opening ceremony Friday morning, and then a closing ceremony Sunday afternoon. So,
okay.
Yeah, more information will be posted on the website as we get closer to those dates.
Okay, thank you. So welcome, everyone. As Linda said, this is the Discovering Buddhism module. Excuse me. Refuge in the Three Jewels. We have 5 Monday nights together. I like to keep the sessions to just about an hour. I think that's a good amount of time to concentrate. What was the previous module? Was it karma?
Yeah,
great.
Karma.
Perfect setup. My name's Robbie Watkins. I've been a member of Kadampa Center since 1993. Contrary to what some people may think, I'm not one of the founders. I came here after the center had been in existence for about a year. And I've been teaching various modules in the Discovering Buddhism series since we instigated really probably about 20 years ago. Let's see, do we have anyone who's here for the very first time tonight? Okay, welcome, great. I'm glad to have you here. Linda mentioned the readings. I just wanted to clarify that the readings do not parallel what I'll be teaching in this course. They're kind of a supplement or another way of looking at this topic of refuge and the three jewels. So don't be confused by that fact. And tonight, let's see. Okay, hello to the people on Zoom. Great, glad to see y'all. And now I got you in front of me. We're going to start with a video produced by the FPMT, which is our parent organization.
You ready for that now?
Yeah, we can go ahead and start with that.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Bear with me for just a moment. And Scott, remember, let me know, just unmute and let me know if it sounds and looks okay. And actually, can someone in the back turn off the front lights up here?
Oops,
Whoops.
sorry.
Yes, I can hear it.
Thank you.
When we are uncomfortable or anything unpleasant happens, we look to take refuge in something. Usually we turn to food, alcohol, sex, drugs, money, power, or relationships. But none of these things gives us the lasting protection or satisfaction we're looking for. When you understand you can't find lasting happiness in samsara, then the desire to find true refuge becomes strong. In Buddhism, we take refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The Buddha is like the doctor who understands your disease and knows how to treat it. The Dharma, his teachings, is the medicine he prescribes, and the Sangha is the spiritual community that helps you to take the medicine. To take refuge is to finally seek protection from suffering in a way that can really help you. When we think about the ultimate nature of reality and what causes us to suffer, this is the true meaning of refuge.
Before listening to these or any teachings, it's essential to prepare one's heart and mind in the appropriate way, to set one's attitude in the highest intention to be able to benefit all living beings. Now, you're about to listen to teachings on taking refuge in the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And this motivation, in and of itself, is taking refuge in the path to enlightenment. So in order to gain the most from listening to these teachings, right now, generate in your mind strongly the determination to be able to achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible in order to be of the highest benefit to each and every suffering living being.
we may think that taking refuge is just a Buddhist thing, a Buddhist topic, but actually we've been doing it all our life. We always try to take some kind of refuge, go for refuge, when we notice that we're suffering. And of course, when we were very young, the first refuge we had was our mother. Whenever something went wrong, we went running to our mother. And she was quite a wonderful refuge as a child. Seemed to solve all our problems for us, or most of them. Yeah. But as we grew older, then we found that maybe our mother couldn't solve all our problems, so we discovered or had to find other refuges. And these were our friends, the friends we found, and then as we grow older, we look for other refuges, particularly our wealth. We all believe, most of us, most of the time, that money will be able to protect us from suffering and bring happiness. So we find a refuge in money, especially in our society now. This is the main refuge. It used to be religion, some kind of religion. Now it's money or power. We take refuge in drugs, socially accepted drugs like alcohol. These are all types of refuge. We go to them thinking, hoping, believing that they will afford some kind of protection, somehow will bring an end to the suffering. Yeah. Also food. This is a very popular form of refuge. Sex. Everything we do, actually, is some kind of refuge from suffering, and also at the same time we hope not only will it stop the suffering, but bring happiness. But we discover with experience that all these different things that we've relied on as some kind of refuge are not a complete refuge. They don't completely solve our problems. They don't bring an end to our suffering completely. And maybe some of us come to the Buddha Dharma because we've discovered that the things we've relied on in the past to overcome our suffering and bring some happiness, not one of them really works, and even all of them together, all of these ordinary forms of refuge, even all of them combined, don't work. They don't really stop our suffering, and especially the causes of our suffering. What we need to take refuge in is something perfect, unbetrayable, pure mind, free of all faults, possessing all qualities. And that is the definition of Buddha mind, enlightened mind. Only that is unbetrayable, something that we can completely rely on and can give every solution. Because one of the good qualities of enlightened mind is that it is omniscient, knowing everything, so therefore can't make mistakes. So when we recognize that we have suffering and the causes of it, we also recognize that this all arises because of ignorance, the wrong view of self that we have, the wrong view that we have of the way all phenomena exist. So this poison in our mind, this afflicted thought of ignorance, is like the worst possible disease that we could have. It's the worst disease because it gives rise to every other disease. The only reason we experience sickness and death is because of karma. And karma is created because of delusions, and delusions depend on the presence of ignorance. If we really recognize that, we have to find someone who is the perfect doctor, and that perfect doctor is the Buddha. Because that Buddha, that perfect doctor of the Buddha, has themselves freed themselves of every disease. They know every disease and the cure for every disease. They've cured themselves of every disease. They know how to cure us. And the medicine, the perfect medicine, is the teachings, the Dharma. And the Arya Sangha, meaning the ordained followers of the Buddha who have practiced intensively and gained a direct insight into the nature of themselves and phenomena. The Sangha are like the nurses who help us take the medicine, tell us when, remind us when to take it, how to take it, in what dosage, and so on. And they inspire us to do so. As an ordinary worldly person, we are always seeking happiness in the external world, out there. And all our suffering and problems, we put the blame on that, on something out there, someone out there. But when we take refuge, or when we do refuge, we become an inner being. We make this conscious recognition that the source of my suffering is not out there, it's within me. When we first take refuge, that's what we recognize. The moment we start to recognize for ourselves and understand that the real cause of my suffering is not out there, but it's inside, and that the real cause of happiness is not out there, but within me. As soon as we have really understood that at some level, then we have refuge. We become an inner being. We realize that everything, good and bad, is in us, and we have to work from within, cultivating the garden of our mind. When we become an inner being, we become a practitioner of the law of cause and effect. We see that that is the key to everything.
So as in conventional expression, we say that if there is a threat, seek a refuge somewhere. So similarly, in the context of spiritual practice, to protect oneself from the threat of unfortunate or unfavorable rebirth, one needs to seek refuge in the three jewels. So when we speak about taking refuge in the context of Buddhism, we must understand that actually there are different levels of refuge and different types of refuge. For example, the highest form of refuge would be that of a Mahayana practitioner, where the refuge that you are seeking from is the thread of being caught in the extremes of samsaric existence on the one hand and isolated nirvana, solitary nirvana on the other. So to be protected from these two extremes of samsaric existence and peace, you seek the attainment of Buddhahood, that is the embodiment of Dharmakaya, the Buddha body of reality, and Rupakaya, the Buddha body of perfect form. And not only that, but also you seek such an enlightened state for the benefit of all sentient beings. And this kind of going for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is that of the Mahayana practitioner. And also the refuge that you are seeking from is much more comprehensive. So then we can also recognize a second level of going for refuge, where the protection that is being sought from, the refuge that is being sought from, is the suffering of conditioning, the pervasive conditioning, and also the suffering of being caught in cyclic existence, and also your fear of the destructive power of all the negative emotions and thoughts. And in order to seek refuge from that, you go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and which embodies the total transcendence of cyclic existence and the sufferings, particularly the suffering of conditioning. And then there is also, again, a third level of, third kind of taking refuge, where the spiritual aspirant is seeking refuge only from a sort of an immediate threat, which is the threat of being reborn in the lower realms of existence and having a tremendous sense of fear for that possibility, and then seeking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha to provide protection from that. And here, so when we talk about this kind of refuge, the threat that we are seeking refuge from is the possibility of suffering in the lower realms of existence. So when we think about lower realms of existence, we should not think of a place so far away in the distant future. This is not really the case, because what divides us from the present moment and such a possibility of next life in the lower realms of existence is simply the continuity of this breath that we all inhale and exhale. The moment that ceases, the next life is right there in front of you.
So we go for refuge to Dharma. When we go for refuge to Dharma, we go for refuge to Buddha, who taught the Dharma. We go for refuge to Sangha, who are the helpers. So the wish to practice Dharma leads to the practice of going for refuge. Yeah? And the first advice, from the Buddhas, when we go for refuge, is to observe our karma. Be mindful of our actions, so we don't create negative actions to be born in the lower realms of existence. Our mind is the cause of suffering and happiness. It arises out of our mind. So it's much more important to protect our mind than to protect our body. It's much more important to protect a positive, state of mind than to protect our possessions, our body, and external things. Yeah? But we have a habit of thinking they are more important than our mind. So we trash our mind and we protect our body. We have to learn how to accept trashing our body to protect our mind. Because it's with anger and hatred and aggression that we destroy our happiness. So my purpose is not to harm others. You think my purpose is to practice Dharma, to extend kindness, compassion to others, so that you generate a state of refuge in your mind. And remember, oh yes, ultimate purpose of my life is, to awaken my mind to benefit others. And for this I rely on Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So we say we need these three jewels. They are jewels. Because they help us overcome our problems and put us on a safe and sound direction in life. But the purpose of going for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha externally is to develop those qualities within ourselves. You can have different meanings of refuge, because there's a kind of inner refuge and there's an outer refuge. When we say we go for refuge, we can also say, I take refuge in my own wisdom. Yeah? But since our wisdom is limited, and we need to develop our wisdom, we have to rely on beings with greater wisdom than ourselves. So that's why we rely on Buddha, who teaches perfect wisdom. So we go for refuge to Buddha, that's external refuge, to develop our own inner refuge. And then we go for refuge to Dharma, which is the wisdom itself, in the mind of Buddha. In the mind of Buddha, that perfect wisdom, understanding relative and ultimate truth, understanding the law, cause and effect, And so we go for refuge to that wisdom to gain perfect wisdom ourselves. Yeah? That's the Dharma. And then we go for refuge to Sangha, because Sanghas are the helpers on the path, They say that this state of refuge, generating a state of refuge and compassion completely stops lower rebirth. It is impossible to take a lower rebirth when your state of mind is focused on refuge and compassion. It blocks. So that's the best state of mind for us ordinary people to die in, to actually be in a state of mind of refuge. Bodhicitta, compassion.
In the past, I often looked to drugs a good amount for taking refuge, whether smoking pot or whatever various drugs I was doing, or alcohol. The teachings say that it's harmful to do activities like that, and to my mind at the time, that wasn't so appealing, I guess I would say. Like, I just wanted to keep doing that, going out and having fun with my boyfriend and taking drugs or getting drunk or whatever. But more and more I started thinking about the teachings they were giving me, and that taking refuge in external things like that can't bring any kind of lasting happiness. I started to find that not only were the experience I had on drugs and alcohol not so fun anymore, and were actually more of a suffering experience and brought even more confusion to my mind. I found that the more I took refuge in doing my practices every day and to going to teachings instead of to parties and to get drugs and to voluntarily trying to quiet my mind, that the teachings were working and that I was finding more stability inside, more peace, more ability to work better at my job. And I think the coolest thing about Refuge as I've gone on is that the more I wholeheartedly give myself to refuge and have faith in it, really cool things have started to happen in terms of things that I've always really wanted have actually been able to happen. The kind of people I've wanted to be around show up. Really amazing teachers keep coming into my life. If there's a teaching I've been wanting, it will almost drop into my lap. By and large, I'm a happier person than I was without refuge. And it's my inner experience of having taken refuge that I've seen a change in my mind. I don't even need to check with anybody outside to see if they've seen a change in me or if refuge has made me a better person, because I've experienced it. When people ask me if refuge has made a difference, it's 100% yes, if not more.
Okay. Thank you for playing that. These videos are almost 20 years old now. Keanu looks a little bit younger than he does in his latest films, but they're still quite good overall. Let's see if you can turn the light back on in there. That'd be good. So that really covers, that's all the material we were going to do in this module. So we're done. Really, that's a good outline of what we'll be covering over the next few weeks. I always like to start with some prayers. So if you can get a copy of the Gold Prayer Book. Let's see. Turn to page 34. And I was going to say, one thing that's very interesting in that I'd never noticed before is Holiness says that when you're a Mahayana practitioner, you take refuge from samsaric existence, a cyclic existence. That's one thing you want. But you also want to take refuge from perfect nirvana, the state of self-liberation, because that leaves other people out. So that never struck me before, but that's kind of a wild idea that we would take refuge from nirvana. Not what we're going to be talking about in this course, because we're not at that level, but if you're at that high a level, even nirvana is something you want to take refuge from. Very interesting. So since we don't have a lot of time left tonight, we're going to read just the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. In the middle of page 34. The concept of refuge is so important that this is the prayer that we recite at the beginning of all teachings. It's considered that crucial to getting benefit from the teachings that are to follow. So we'll read this 3 times in English, and if you're not familiar with it, I'm not going to explain it tonight, but we may get into a little detail in one of the other weeks. And we typically say these prayers with our right hands and left hands touching at the level of our heart. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my actions of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, and other perfections. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, so the first two lines are going for refuge. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, until I become a Buddha, until I completely develop my qualities of wisdom and compassion. When I get to that point, I don't need to go for refuge any longer, okay? So I go for refuge until I'm enlightened. In the Buddha, excuse me, I've got a tickle. This has been going on for weeks, this little tickle in my throat. The Dharma and the Supreme Assembly are the Sangha. So those are the three jewels. The next two lines are generating bodhicitta, the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of others. So that's how those two concepts are combined in that one poem or one prayer. And again, I like to start with some meditation. We're on a little bit of a tight schedule this evening. We'll do a very quick meditation. And over the next weeks, I'll talk about it in more detail if you're not familiar with meditating. And so we've said our prayer, which helps prepare our mind. Now we're going to do a little bit of concentration meditation to become more focused, also that we can benefit from the discussion that's to follow. And when we do a formal meditation, we begin by checking our posture. And the most important aspect of the posture is our back is a little bit straighter than we normally sit, whether we're on a cushion or in the chair. Our head is straight on our shoulders. Our eyes are either lightly closed or just very slightly open. Our jaw is relaxed. Our tongue is on the hard palate behind our upper teeth. Our shoulders are down and back, not hunched up. Our chest is open. Upper arms are away from the sides of our torso. And our right hand is on left with our thumbs touching, slightly below the level of the navel. If we're sitting on a cushion, our legs are crossed in a position that we find stable and comfortable. And if we're sitting in a chair, our feet are flat on the floor or on a cushion underneath our feet. So just take a moment, establish the posture. And we begin by taking 3 deep breaths from the abdomen, with the stomach expanding on the in-breath and contracting on the out-breath. And do that just 3 times. And now we allow our breathing to return to its normal pattern. And as always, we begin by setting our motivation. We think that I am doing this meditation and engaging in this discussion tonight. As much as possible, we generate the bodhicitta motivation so that I can be of greater benefit to all sentient beings. And even if that doesn't seem natural or realistic, just thinking that way is beneficial. And having set our motivation, we're now going to do the actual meditation, a simple concentration meditation. The mind, the awareness, we just place it on the movement of breath in and out through our nostrils. the physical sensation of air moving in and out. Nothing more, nothing less than that. And every time we notice that our mind is wandered off to another object, we set that aside and bring it back to the breath, the tactile sensation of the movement of the breath. And as always, we end our meditation with what we call a dedication. And we think that just by sitting quietly like this for a few minutes, I've made a positive imprint on my mind stream. My mind is a little bit different than it was 5 minutes ago. And we think, may that positive energy not be lost or dissipated, but may it ripen in the future in a way that benefits all sentient beings. And you may relax your concentration. So we'll start off by talking about what some of these words mean. Buddhism can be very jargony at times. These are pretty simple ones, but it's always good to get clear on exactly what we're talking about. So we're talking about refuge and the three jewels. What do people think of when they hear the word refuge? What comes to mind? Safety, shelter. Anything else? Those are pretty standard words. Let's see, I have the official definition from American Heritage Dictionary, not from Webster's. protection or shelter as from danger or hardship. First, a place providing protection or shelter, a haven or sanctuary. And then the third one, which is anything to which one may turn for help, relief, or escape. Okay, so not far off from what we're talking about when we're talking about Buddhist refuge. I don't think escape applies, but certainly for help or relief, safety, protection, shelter, all those words apply. Oh, thank you, Linda. Yeah, this one's on its last legs. The word refuge is used in 2 ways. Did I do that? 2 ways in Buddhism. The first is we talk about an official refuge ceremony, which is a one-time ceremony you go through with a qualified teacher after you've looked at the teachings and say, this is the path for me. And it's really the official entry into the Buddhist pathway. It's kind of like confirmation in some Christian denomination. And we'll talk about the refuge ceremony in the last class, what it involves and how to prepare for it and how to think about whether you want to participate in it or not, because it's offered on usually several times a year here at Kadampa Center. So we'll talk about that. But we also talk about refuge in terms of a mental attitude that we develop, something that is always there in our mind stream, going for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma. Can you get me a Ricola out there, please? There is some on the table. Thank. No, I just have this. I apologize. This happens to me every year this time of year. Thank you. Got one, Linda, here. Okay. Going for refuge, it's a mental attitude. Initially, we think about it, something we do when things aren't going well. But as we progress along the path, we go for refuge even when things are going well. It becomes a continuous quality of our mind, if we're practicing Buddhist, of going for refuge continually. It's what we say is a realization, which means we've taken this intellectual concept and made it so much a part of our being that it's always there in our mind stream. So we've realized refuge, and it's continually there in our mind stream. So those are the 2 ways we use the word refuge in Buddhist circles, if you run in Buddhist circles. And then the 3 jewels. So if we're card-carrying Buddhists, we go for refuge to the 3 jewels. The first of which is the Buddha. And by this, we don't mean the statues on the altar or the images and the tankas on the wall. We're talking about the historical figure of the Buddha, who lived 2,500 years ago in northern India, kind of on the border of what is now India and Nepal. He was a human being. He wasn't a god. He wasn't all powerful. He was a human being who sat under the Bodhi tree and looked at his own mind and completely developed his qualities of wisdom, which means seeing reality, seeing things as they are without any projections, and compassion, which is the wish that others be free of suffering. And that's the state we call Buddhahood or enlightenment. So we take refuge in him as an example of what is possible for each of us. We have the same ability. Okay? Second jewel, they're called jewels because they're so precious, is the Dharma. Which is the teachings of the historical Buddha, a Buddha who lived during our times, during this cycle on Earth. These are the actual teachings, because it's basically, that's what an enlightened being does. He teaches by example, by writing, by just living his life. You know, he can't remove the suffering of others, but he can teach them how to remove their suffering based on his personal experience. So the Dharma, that's a word that just refers to the teachings. And then Sangha, which is used in two ways. The official term is the official way is the robed Sangha, those who have taken vows, the monks and nuns. We have a number here at Kadampa Center. We're very lucky in that regard. So those are the robed Sangha, but we also use the term in a more general sense to refer to everyone who is on the spiritual Buddhist path who can support us on our own path. Okay? So the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, those are the three jewels that, if we're Buddhist, we take refuge in. Any questions or comments? We're almost out of time. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you are online, you can type it in the chat, whether you're on
Okay.
YouTube or Zoom. If you're in here, just raise your hand. Oh, we got one back there.
Okay.
Henry. Yeah, and thank you for waiting for the microphone so folks online can hear.
Probably had a question about the Buddha as one of the jewels. Is it also Buddha mind, Buddhahood, Buddha within? Is it always the Buddha, external Buddha of the
No,
human figure?
good question. Venerable Karen talked about that in the video. We start off with external refuge. These are the external refuges, but ultimately we take refuge in those qualities within ourselves. Okay, but for most of us, those qualities are pretty skimpy in our mind right now. So we go for external refuge in the sense that I explained them there. And then ultimately we have our internal refuge. So that's a good point. Thank you. External and internal. In this class, we're going to be talking primarily about external refuge. But ultimately, as we progress along the path, we have inner refuge. And then when you're Buddha, you don't take refuge at all. You just are. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Each of us has the potential to become a Buddha. Okay. Okay. I wanted to just mention two more things before we finish up this evening. The causes of going for refuge. Why do we go for refuge? And it's two F's. Does anybody know what the causes of refuge are? Fear, okay, which sounds awful, okay, well, and we'll talk about this more next week. And what's the second one? Did I hear something? Oh, okay. Faith, okay. These are both loaded terms, and we're always dealing with translations from other languages, so they're not real accurate. Fear, this is what you talked about in the karma module. And I like to refer to it as informed understanding of the consequences of our actions. Okay, it's understanding that we have created negative karma that will cause us to suffer in the future. Okay, It's not paralyzing fear, or fear is actually considered a positive mind stream, mental attitude in Tibetan Buddhism, if you understand correctly the way they're using the words. It's the mental attitude that keeps us from stepping in front of a speeding car, because we know it's going to cause problems. Not because we're terrified and can't act, but just say, I would prefer not to do that. I would prefer not to experience the consequences of our action. So, knowing that our karma will cause us problems in the future is the first cause of going for refuge. Faith, again, a loaded term, but that's the way it's translated, is knowing that there is a place we can go for refuge. Okay, if we just had fear without any understanding of what to do about it, if we didn't understand the 3 jewels, that would be paralyzing in and of itself. It's said like we're, as if we were out in the field during a fierce lightning storm, okay? We understand that the lightning will cause us problems, so we want to get away from it. And we also understand that on the other side of the hill, there's a concrete shelter that we can go into that will protect us from the lightning. So we need those 2 causes. You know, if we just were out in the field with lightning and didn't have a safe place to go to, that would be paralyzing. If we knew there was a concrete shelter over there, but we didn't understand that the lightning could kill us, we'd have no interest in going into the shelter. Okay? So we'll talk about this more next week. Fear and faith as the 2 causes of going for refuge. We really need both of them. And we talk in Buddhism a lot about compassion, which is the wish that others be free of suffering. Refuge is really compassion for yourself. It's that you can be free of suffering. It's you get to that point, and we talk about this when we talk about karma, where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you say, I'm going to do something about it, and I'm going to go to a concrete shelter that I know will protect me. Okay? So it's really having compassion for yourself, a wish to end your own suffering. Any comments or questions before we wind up? Okay, so that's just a brief outline of what this class will be about. Homework this week. I'd like you to pick a place in your home to meditate and sit in meditation 5 days for the week. Start by doing a refuge prayer if you like. You don't have to do that. And then just do 5 minutes of concentration meditation like we did tonight. So do that for 5 days. And the other thing is I'd like you to think about, what do you take refuge in now? Whether it's Buddhist or non-Buddhist, just think about what you turn for refuge. And it doesn't have to be just sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It can be family, good, you know, there are other good refuges that we can turn to besides the Buddhist ones. Next week, we'll look at a little closer at the causes of going for refuge. And we'll look at the qualities of the 3 jewels that make them worthy objects of refuge. Why would we turn to those as opposed to something else? And hopefully my cough will be gone next week. Again, I apologize about that. So that's the class, okay?
Do you want to do dedication prayers?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you can, if you're here in the Kadampa, you can turn to page 32.
Do You want to lead those? Because I'll really
Happy to.
hack through those.
Okay, so you can recite them with me or simply listen. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may these never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie.
Yes.
Do you think we'll be going just until 8 o'clock or,
Yeah,
about
I'm
8
going
o'clock
aim
every
for 8
week?
o'clock
Okay,
each. Mhm.
awesome. Yay. Thank you, Robbie.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone online. We'll see you next week. Geshe is back on Wednesday night for those of you who want to come to Lamrim class.
Thanks,
And of course
Robbie.
on
Thanks, Linda.
Sundays.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.